Hello, hello, hello.
ガタつく可能性があるからやめといた方がいいかな。いらんことせん方がいいかな。まあ、それは置いとこう。一応な、優先に変えたから、余
Is this
裕
10
はあ
on?
るんやけど、ちょっと急に調子悪くなったのもあるから、ちょっとやめといた。
Nice. I wonder if the stream is running. This Crested Peak 9 stream that we are... Oh, it has too much speaking. Let's just mute the whole thing. Make it a bit quieter.
Should probably lower my voice. It seemed a bit loud, like really loud.
Hello, hello.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
捨て身機をちょっと設定してなかったから音出せんやんけ。まあいいや。
Did it lower?
いつもはちょっと振り分けてるんやけど、音を今ちょっと出してない。
Hello, hello.
こっちで YouTube の音を出すと、こっちの配信にも乗っちゃって音が被る。
Hello, hello.
Oh yeah, it's just this one guy's stream that's frozen here. This is working, very good. Okay, this is Touhou Replay Showcase, which I'm apparently now hosting. Thank you, good people, for showing up to watch this epic match between Kaiko and Dagoth. Team France versus Team Japan. Maybe it will start soon, maybe not, we'll see. Seems like someone is waiting for video capture, whatever that means.
Yeah, not quite sure what it means.
Oh, we got the stream title, thanks. I hear someone's in the menu.
That's Kaiko. You can see the speaker on the bottom right of his stream.
Yeah, so it's probably the Japanese player's audio right now.
I think the way the host, well, source host is doing this is like using audio from the stream that is like further ahead in the...
We'll just see what we get and how much he talks over it. Probably a lot, so we won't hear a lot of the game audio here. I see the timer seems to be starting. It just started. We are at 59:49. The race starts and Dagoth is on a credit. The Japanese player still has some overlays on. Maybe he forgot to take them off. Oh, he's also playing. Excellent. The match is on. In the left corner, we have Dagoth from France. The pride of his country. He's resetting. And our Japanese player, whose score is hidden on the left. What is this? Is he Megapulse? We don't know who he is, but he apparently has his score hidden. So we have no idea what to expect from him. We are expecting great things though. We see both players starting the stage 1 stage section.
So I don't know what he's gonna do.
They got getting past the first freezes. Let's see. Is he gonna make it to the mid-boss? Is he gonna make it to the mid-boss, guys?
His route looks pretty normal so far.
Alright, the game mechanics. You see this big percentage in the middle of the screen when people freeze. That's irrelevant. The relevant parts are actually the score number under it and the resources on the right, which all increase when these players are using freezes. You see that the perfect freeze, the lowest number, under the pink text, this increases when they freeze, and this represents their bombs, which they will be hopefully using a lot of. And their motivation in yellow, their lives, also increases when they freeze and deal damage. Which hopefully we'll have to see if they use it or not. Oh, we should be introduced. Good idea. I am Eero Kurkisu, aka Megapulse, aka Peta Satan, aka various other names, and joining me is...
I'm, well, most people just call me Satis, so I guess that's where I'm going.
Excellent. We are introduced, and it seems like we have the player on the right on the mid-boss. He's doing some freeze milking. Getting a bit of grace on these bullets to charge his eyes and then dropping the ice. Very good, shooting a bit for the charge as well. He's getting a bit of PF from every freeze and a bit of score. Very important. Oh, he's gonna reset. Never mind. Back to the left. Is Dagoth gonna get to the mid-boss? Stay tuned to find out.
I think your team is about 20 seconds behind. I guess it doesn't matter, since everyone's seeing.
Yeah, I have a bit of a buffer here, so I don't choke my internet accidentally. It's fine, we don't need to be on time.
The score on all this game is like 24 to 25 minutes. Depends on your patterns.
Yeah, I think we'll be seeing both players finish at least 2 runs. And I would imagine that in this setting they will both first be going for a relatively safe run where they will aim to claim with maximum motivation. Since in this game your motivation caps out at 1000%, and at the end of the game you get a lot of score for having maximum motivation, 43 million in total. And if you are missing even a little of motivation, you lose a lot. 40 million of that is from motivation, so you really need maximum lives when you clear the game to get a good score on the board. And yes, motivation means lives in this game. It's the percentage in the top right corner under the yellow text, currently at 334 on Dagoth, 344. And it's increasing every time he's damaging enemies with his freeze, which you see. He got past the mid-boss, excellent. Is this the run? It's happening. I think it's happening, guys. This end of the stage section has some freeze optimization, but hopefully there won't be a risk here. Can he make it?
He's doing the setup for the first freeze on Lunan's first known, although that was a very big freeze. Did damage.
Yeah, so far it doesn't seem like either player is super optimized, but they can still get good scores later, so it's fine. We see Dagoth on the first non-spell starting his first boss milk. You're gonna see him graze these bullets that are aimed towards him as they turn to increase his ice charge, get a bigger freeze, and he's wanting to not damage the boss if he can, since the boss has not much HP. You see now the boss is almost dead, so he has to start playing safe or accidentally deal too much damage. Well, there he goes. He would have wanted to milk his
those
non-spell
phases
until
were really
timeout.
aggressive.
He would have wanted to milk until timeout, but he had some accidental damage, so the milk ended early, which loses him a couple of freezes worth of score and resources. We'll see how he deals with that. There would normally be more bombs on this spell that he's doing right now, but with the
Yeah, he's
early
losing
death,
pretty huge points because of the mistake on first.
yeah, he's definitely not going great on this first boss, but he can still recover, I think, on the next stages.
Kaiko just got to the first spell.
Milking the
His
second
PF is a little
non-spell.
better. But it's still not.
Yeah, both players are having a rough time on the first boss now. We'll see if they reset. I don't think they should right now.
Probably not.
These runs are still... they're definitely doable still. To get a score on the board. Final spell going pretty well on for Dagoth.
10.3. It's not great, but I think it's more than adequate.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna work for TWC. Wait, TWC? How do you pronounce that?
Looks like Kaiko's doing the final spell pretty well. There are a few unfortunate freezes, but for the most part, it's pretty good.
Looking like both players will be having around a 10 million stage 1 here.
Yeah. So far, they're pretty even.
And Dagoth is gonna be arriving at the stage 2 mid-boss soon. If he makes it past these green fairies. Can he make it? Okay, he got here. Excellent. These fireballs are random, maybe he will die to them.
It's an excellent.
Got the
The
30%.
bomb's pretty good on his first.
Alright, one thing to watch is that when your freeze is 30% or above, these players are getting 20% perfect freeze, which is bombs, the lowest number on the right. Not as low as the shot power at the bottom, the pink number. So if they are getting 29, 28%, that's usually a sign of a somewhat failed or unlucky freeze. Nice 30% on Dagoth. It doesn't seem like he's
Fortunately,
going
it's
to be
still
doing...
too much damage, so he's gonna miss the last freeze.
Yeah, and he's not gonna do suicides on this mid-boss, it looks like. Probably because he died on stage 1, or he wants to get a safe run in for the scoreboard.
Yeah, safe, I think. That's a great ring freeze on the fairies. It's pretty much as good as it's gonna get.
Yeah, both players have had pretty solid stage sections so far. The bosses are definitely where most of the score differences in this game generally come from between players.
Kaiko gets all the freezes on the second on. That was a good second.
We see Dagoth soon arriving to the stage 2 mid-boss. I mean, the boss, Stars of Fire. We can pretend she's a mid-boss. This, I think, is where we'll definitely see some big discrepancies in score depending on how these players will execute. And what strategies they will choose to use. There's several ways to milk his first non-spell. Dagoth is doing, it seems like, the more dangerous one where you go through the rinse up to twice and then freeze after. And this can be optimized depending on how aggressively you do it, how well you position and time to freeze. So far it's not been perfect, but you can still definitely get a lot of points from this. And dying here would be very costly. Not only would you die, but you also don't get to do the freeze if you were to die going through these rinse. It's a pretty tight gap, but so far Dagoth seems to have it down. Oh no, he got a bad freeze, so now he's kind of trapped. He was able to recover, but he lost quite a bit of score from having to play defensively. Then on the first spell we'll be seeing a lot of bombs used for score. You see the PF is now capped at 300%. He's going to be using 3 bombs on this spell for score. You see 579k from that bomb. On this spell you can freeze for pretty small amounts only, so it's a very good place to get nice score bombs. And every 3 cycles is when these bombs are going to be fired. And on the last bomb, ideally, he wants to have the bomb damage kill the boss, which will give him point items from the boss, which due to killing the boss with freeze or in this case bomb, will turn them into frozen items which are auto-collected and have more value. Which is how you'll be collecting pretty much all relevant score items in this game, by killing enemies or bosses with the freeze, which turns them into auto-collected frozen items. This second non-spell going pretty okay for Dagoth. He died, but not at a bad time that would cost him significant score. He's going to probably use a bomb on this cycle. And then freeze this last one. Oh, he's gonna dodge these final parts and not finish the non-spell. That's a bit risky, but he got away with it. Then the second spell we're gonna be seeing him freeze milking this. Getting a bit of grace to charge his ice faster. Hoping for a 30% freeze if possible. These are good freezes so far, and the boss movement RNG is favoring him.
Yeah, this is pretty good. He's not getting much from his ice grazing, if anything at all. Failing that doesn't really matter much. It's just a
Is
nice
he gonna
bonus.
go for one more freeze? Looks like he is. This is dangerous, but he got it. Nice capture. Looks like currently Dagoth's run is a bit ahead of the players on the right. We'll go follow the player on the right after Dagoth finishes the run, I think. Then this final spell. You want to see him grazing these bullets to charge his ice. And then drop the freeze. Right now the grazing is not going that well. You would ideally want to have 100% ice charge before this freeze. And this fireball pattern
it's freezing a
repeats.
bit far.
The fireball pattern here is repeated on each cycle, so once you have seen it or memorized it for the instance you're getting, it is a pattern you can repeat safely, ideally. The bullets have slight random movement, but it's very slow.
Kaiko's doing a very interesting position on this. Fortunately, quite low grace potential here, and I don't think this position is all that great.
Dagoth getting the 30% on the stage opener freeze, just barely, very good. Kinda risky dodging those random bullets while waiting to freeze.
Both have good motivation count, so that's good.
Yeah,
it's very important to getting...
Yeah, both players have good motivation right now, so they should be more or less set for clearing with maximum motivation depending on how much they suicide or die on stage 3. Which I imagine both players will be playing... Well, will be playing pretty cautiously, trying to ensure that they get a good score on the board before they try for any riskier runs.
Yeah, probably not too many suicides, unless they're absolutely capped, I think.
We'll be explaining score suicides when or if either player uses them. So far, neither of them have done a single suicide, have they? At least I don't remember.
No, I don't think. Oh, there's one. On Dagoth.
Coming up right now, this suicide that we just heard about. This mid-boss non-spell is one spell where you can use suicides right there. What a suicide does is it makes...
the damage control is very different.
Yeah, so what a suicide does in this game is it cancels the damage from the freeze that you are doing. So when you freeze and then you suicide before your freeze explodes, the freeze doesn't deal full damage to the boss, but instead the suicide death wave will deal a bit of damage, which is a lot less than the suicide would. So you can get extra milking time on the bosses and preserve their HP for longer by using a suicide before your freeze explodes. So this is what Dagoth was doing right there with those two suicides. And you also get 25% perfect freeze or bomb for each suicide. So he will also be looking to use more bombs later with the extra PF he got from dying twice.
Also, there's a funny thing about Sunny mid-boss. The non-spell timer ticks during dialogue, so it's really important you just skip through that dialogue as soon as you can, otherwise you will probably lose.
Yes, that's a glitch in a... It's in 2 non-spells in the game, right? Or just that one? Or spells rather, where during dialogue the timer already starts, so if you want to be cheesy you can just sit there for a minute and the spell will finish instantly when it starts. But for score, of course, you don't want that happening, so you should pause during the dialogue if you want to wait. They got died on the knife rinse, that is not intentional. But he can still probably...
He's good PF, so he's gonna get the bomb on the last Ferris here.
Dying again on the knife rinse, that's not ideal, but he definitely still has enough lives to get a max motivation clear. These players can get up to 800% or more motivation on the final boss, so technically they could enter it with 200% motivation, 2 lives, and still get a pretty decent score at the end. We'll see what's going to happen. Dagoth getting into the final boss. Looks like he's going for frozen items on the fairy on the left, but he missed it. His freeze didn't deal enough damage. You see these non-frozen items falling off the screen. That's what happens when you kill enemies or bosses without using the freeze by using the shot, but he had to do it there. The fairy on the right he did kill with the freeze, which got him frozen items, which were auto-collected.
Kaiko actually got the frozen item kill on, or the ice kill on the left.
Very nice.
Yeah, that's a big gain.
Definitely. We'll be
So
seeing
far
if...
Kaiko is behind on score, but his resources are pretty good. Better than Dagoth's.
Definitely. We'll be seeing if either player opts to use suicides on the final boss. There are several opportunities on the non-spells for profits. On this first roll we want to see the players killing these 2 side fairies early, since they fire fireballs which don't help you freeze and do help you die. Then they will be looking to milk the boss. Let's see what they do. Oh, Dagoth is gonna use the safe spot. It's only a safe spot when the sun is active.
He's side shooting this pretty hard, like he's hitting with far too many icicles, so he's definitely gonna miss a freeze.
Possibly.
He's dealing a little too much damage.
What you also want to do, what Cement Fairy just mentioned, is you want to deal damage to bosses with your freeze and not your shot if possible, since when you deal damage to bosses with your freeze, you are getting motivation, but you are getting more motivation, but when you are damaging them with your shot, you are getting much less motivation. So by getting the maximum amount of damage in freezes on a boss that has a lot of HP, like that Sunny first spell, you are getting way more motivation or lives when you deal the damage with freezes and not with shot. And we see Dagoth controlling his damage on this second non. Wanting to not shoot too much so he can keep these 2 side fairies alive for bigger freezes. Then they'll be setting up for Ice Dissolver, which is the second spell. By doing a freeze at the very end of this non-spell, that transfers into the beginning of that spell and deals damage to the 2 side fairies on it. We'll see if Dagoth gets it. I think he got it. You'll see that the HP on both the side fairies has significantly dropped from that freeze he did during the transition, which will make this beginning much more consistent. He got them both and got good freezes, very good. Then he's gonna want to grace these lasers point
this
blank.
luck for Dagoth is really bad.
Yeah,
I
this,
think we're using a bomb on the solver instead.
this isn't looking so good for Dagoth with these freezes. Ideally they would go better, but the bullets are not spreading so good. And he's also not on the ideal cycle for how high he would want to freeze. You know, he has to
This
freeze
PF
before
is
the
very
lasers
good
come.
though. You could definitely do a good pattern with on field with his resources. You
Oh,
could do a full
absolutely.
resource pattern.
Ideally, Dagoth would want to have 300% perfect freeze for that upcoming non-spell, which he will definitely have at this rate. So he'll be able to use a lot of bombs and also a lot of suicides if he opts to. We'll see what he does. Is he gonna capture the pal with shots? He is, very good. Did the damage management.
It's doing good so far. He missed a
We make-
30%.
This suicide is intentional to control damage again. If you don't suicide here, the side fairies take a ton of damage and their HP is very limited, so to get a good milk, suicide in here is paramount. That freeze there does hurt the milk a little. Maybe he will not go for further suicides. We'll see. Yeah, it seems like he's going for 2 suicides and then using bombs. Played it very safe here.
Yeah, I think that's good because 4th non and overdrive can be kind of difficult and you don't want to die.
Yeah, it's definitely playing it safe for this first credit to make sure to get at least 1 maximum motivation clear on the board. That's the least you can settle for in a setting like this. And with the plenty of time still left, both players will be able to do at least 1 more full run after this. Possibly more. The time is also arguably more generous for Great Fairy Wars than for most of the other score games, since the score runs take less than half an hour. So you could, if you didn't reset, get even 3 full score runs in during this 1 hour timer, no problem.
They're doing a very different technique on this.
Yeah, our Japanese
Kaiko's doing
players,
freeze every other way.
and he's also leaving the side fairy alive rather than killing it. I wonder if he's got some plan for this or what. They got get into the 4th
I
non-spell.
don't think he's aware of my... So maybe he doesn't care about the one.
Maybe. Some good freezes from Dagoth on this 4th non-spell. Here getting the 30% freeze can be very tricky and luck-based, but so far he's gotten them all. He wants to not freeze during this dangerous part and then freeze when it ends. Hopefully with
I'm
good
actually gonna
results.
say Dagoth is on a PB pace run right now.
We'll have to see.
Yeah, pretty easily I would say. As long as he doesn't die.
It's definitely possible. He's using... No, he's not gonna use 1 more bomb. Not enough HP on that non-spell for that. Now Fairy Overdrive. You'll see him doing this big freeze at the start for score, then a small freeze that gets a bit of PF and a lot of safety, and then he's gonna want to keep repeating this cycle and recharging his ices in between to make sure he gets both of these freezes for the strategy to go properly. But if he falls behind on the cycle, this can go really ugly, so let's see if he keeps it up. Going well so far. He killed the first side fairy and got frozen items from it, which is very good. That's what we want to see. He's skipping the in-between freeze right now. Probably afraid of damage management or having already dealt too much damage to the main fairy, is that small freeze can deal damage, and if you end this spell early, like on many other things, your milk will end prematurely, which will lose you a lot of points. That was a lot of damage to the main fairy as well. She's almost dead, so Dagoth might have to play very cautiously here, or just end the spell early, which he did. He's on pace for finishing with maximum motivation if he clears this final spell properly. We'll see. Meanwhile, our Japanese player seems like he's doing a slightly different strategy on Overdrive. We'll have to see it again on his next run, hopefully. Final spell going well for Dagoth. He's cancelling the parts where the bullets would turn into fireballs properly. It's a static pattern, so once you know the method,
very good for him, like.
it'll go fine.
Yeah,
And Dagoth
doesn't have to die during the door.
Yeah, now Dagoth is going to use 3 bombs to finish off this pattern. And as long as he... And he also wants to not soft lock the game, which you would do by killing the main fairy. Yeah, it is a
finish around
PB
the same time.
by about 1 million maybe.
And Kaiko got 88 million, I think. 88.5. It's hard to see.
100.2 million for Dagoth. That's a nice PB.
Yeah, that's definitely a good first credit.
Very solid score on the board. But he can definitely still improve his score by using more suicides and some more risky strategies. And he's definitely got the time for it with 32 minutes on the clock. Up to 2 more runs he can finish.
Runs of this game are between 20 to 25 minutes. I would say Dagoth was like 24 and Kaiko was like 21. His patterns are a little lower scoring, so the time for each run is lower for him.
Yeah, it depends on how long you milk all the attacks for. If you go for really optimized milks down to the last second on most hints, then I think this category is like 26 minutes, but with a couple of earlier kills it might be 25, 24 minutes, 23. We'll see what these players are doing, but they can definitely both still get at least 2 finished runs in if they don't reset too much. We'll have to see what happens.
The players definitely weren't synced at the start, but it's synced up later in stage 3 because Kaiko's scoring patterns are a lot weaker.
Let me get a little less behind on the stream. Let's follow this player on the right now, see what he's doing since we focused on Dagoth the previous time. He's on stage 1. And his score on the left is still hidden by the blue bar, so we still do not know what his PB may or may not be. Oh, actually the game audio doesn't have talking over it, so let's actually bring it up a bit. That's better.
Yeah, he hit his scoreboard.
We see player on the right, Kaiko. How do we pronounce this, Kaiko?
Yeah,
We see him
Kaiko.
doing the mid-boss milking. He wants to get close to this wave of bullets, so it is grazed before he freezes it, which gives him extra ice charge, making his freeze just a little bit larger.
Yeah, it's really important you graze the wave, like the ring before you freeze.
On this non-spell as well, you'll see him grazing the bullets in the ring, and then right before they hit him, he's going to drop the freeze, which will charge his ice to the level that gives him a nice freeze. Yes, audio's on Kaiko right now and doesn't seem desync to me, but maybe it is.
It seems fine to me.
He got past the mid boss. Both players so far having a pretty okay stage section on stage 1.
Yeah, his PF is very low though, so I don't think he's gonna
420% motivation entering Luna
hit
Child.
the PF requirement.
A blaze in stage 1. That definitely hurts a lot since he missed a freeze because of it. Looks like he might reset. No, he's gonna continue. No, he's gonna reset. He's baiting. The man is baiting us. Meanwhile, Dagoth seems to be on the mid boss again. Let's see if he makes it past this.
That's a
Going for the
huge bomb. The last one he gets.
Let's
That
see
is
this.
definitely very lucky.
Yeah, that's a very solid bomb. 620k. Both players are playing A1 Lunatic. They got closing in on the stage 1 boss. Both players had a pretty rough time on it on their previous run, so we'll see if they can improve. On the first non-spell of the first boss, which Dagoth will be arriving at shortly, what they are aiming for is for the PF number, perfect freeze, or bombs, the number below the pink text. They want it to be 295% or more in order to perform a strat on the first spell using several score bombs. If they get less than it, they may opt to do some backup strats or lose points. And to do that, they want to get a lot of 30% freezes on this first non-spell and have a good stage 1 overall. Dagoth having a death there doesn't help him. And one of the things making the 30% harder is if the players deal too much damage to this boss, the non-spell will end prematurely, which will stop the milk and prevent them from getting any further freezes for perfect freeze. Like that is happening to Dagoth right now. The boss is flashing, she's almost dead. Yeah, Dagoth had an unfortunate time with that first non-spell. Makes sense to reset there right now, with the score he's got on board already. Meanwhile, our Japanese player is back to the mid-boss. Let's see if he makes it past this. Milking this non-spell. Grazing the lines. Very good. Optimizing this mid-boss can actually help you meet the motivation target, or rather PF target, sorry, on the non-spell of the first boss, since it's all a continuous cycle, continuous route throughout stage 1 to the mid-boss, to the boss non-spell. So you just need to get enough PF on stage 1, on the mid-boss, and on the first non-spell of the first boss to meet the high PF target at the end of the first non-spell. We'll see if both players are able to get it this time. Looks like our player on the right has some unusual routes on the stage section, but hey, they work fine. Getting back on the first boss non-spell. And he's again looking to get 30% freezes, not 29%. To get 20% perfect freeze or a 30%, as opposed to 10% or less if you are 29% or lower. It jumps up there significantly, so he's definitely looking for those. Going so well, going far so well. Well so far, please. He's still got plenty of
He's
HP on the
definitely
boss,
missing
so
a lot of 30% here, so he's not gonna get the PF requirement. Not requirement, but the preferred
yeah, with
PF.
these couple of last freezes haven't gone so well, so he's not gonna hit the target, but he might still be good. We'll see what he decides to do.
Oh, he just tried the suicide on the first spell, but he just went
Let's
for
see
the
this
bullets.
happen.
So. Oh, this is yeah, it's a disaster.
You try to suicide, but you fail, a very common occurrence in this game, which can actually be really bad, because usually when you're suiciding, you're doing a freeze that would deal good high damage to the boss if you failed the suicide, and you're depending on the suicide to cancel the damage. So you do that freeze, then you fail the suicide, the boss takes huge damage, it can be absolutely run killing. One of the worst mistakes in some cases, depending. And he decided to reset, which is understandable.
Yeah, the actual suicide that came afterwards was still too late, so it cut the wave in half, so he got nothing out of his bomb.
That's unfortunate.
It's a huge score loss.
Mistiming a suicide is arguably worse than dying in this game by a lot, in very many cases.
Yeah,
Depends,
for
of
sure.
course, where you do it.
Deaths in general are pretty lenient. Honestly, I feel like you lose more points by not trying something out rather than dying to something.
Yes,
Even if-
absolutely. Even a partially successful score strategy often will score higher than taking a safer route and surviving better. It's definitely a game where taking risks is very much worth it with how the resource system works. There's no huge penalty for most deaths depending on how you're using suicides or not using them. On this route, both players also have the option to skip suicides, since the majority of the good suicide spots are in stage 3, which is of course late in the game. If they happen to have died a lot, they can just opt not to do them. So they have quite a lot of flexibility for how they want to continue their runs, whether they die or not.
Yeah, A1 is an excellent route for I'd say. There's no large risk of like game overing in stage 2 constantly.
Yeah, this is definitely a route that should be comfortable for both players in a Touhou World Cup setting on a timer with a limited amount of runs.
Yeah, I would say A1 is a very flexible.
So right now our timer is at less than 22 minutes, so likely both players will only be able to finish one more run right now with the resets they've done so far.
Well, I think Kaiko could finish too, if he finishes.
Yeah, it's close, he might. I think the stage section on stage 1 is about 3 minutes, so he might just barely finish this run and then start the next one. If he doesn't reset this, we'll see. Going again for these 30% freezes, we'll see if he gets good ones. It depends, of course, on the player's freezes, but also on how the boss moves and decides to distribute these random bullets. So far, it's not looking so hard for our player on the right. Yeah, these freezes aren't what he would like to see, I imagine. But we'll see if he chooses to continue this run.
Let's see if he gets the suicide. Oh.
This time he successfully suicides. Much better luck on being able to die.
I think that was fine considering the PF route he was on.
The length of the score run depends on how much milking you do. If you do a lot, it's 25 to 27 minutes depending on the route. But you can also skip some of the milking, kill a few spells earlier, and then it will progressively get shorter, of course. So it depends on how much scoring you want to do, where you want to do it, all that. Like on the second non-spell, we'll probably be seeing both players end it relatively early, because if you milk it ball on, it just never gets easier. You see, this is a pretty brutal pattern, even with freezing. You can milk it to nearly timeout, but it is very risky, so I imagine neither player will go for it. On this final spell of the stage 1 boss as well, it's possible to do a slightly longer milk that does 2 freezes that don't deal damage to the boss. But so far neither player has been going for that. It takes a bit longer, but it can fail and actually lose your score if you end up dealing damage on freezes where you don't mean to, so the safer option is definitely not to go for it. And we see our player on the right. Our player on the right getting out of stage 1 with 10.0 million. About the same he got on his first run he finished.
Almost sniped for the green line.
Yes, very close. That Rin Fairy on the left surviving probably wasn't intentional, but he recovered by shooting it. Very good.
Yeah, I think he got scared by the green line, so he was a little late up to the ring.
Probably. We'll see the stage section
So,
freezes.
perfectly.
Going well so far for Kaiko. And he's using the score bombs on this mid boss as is normal. Getting a big freeze on this, very good. Ideally the boss would be staying near the center for this upcoming bomb, but she moved to the left side. The boss movement in this game is random, but they have a chance to follow where your player character is. So if you are to the right of the boss, they have a 2 in 3 chance to move towards you, and a 1 in 3 chance to move away from you. So you can kind of manipulate that slightly, which we may or may not see these players doing, since there's a lot going on in this game and you may not remember, or depending on how the situation is going, be able to just freely position yourself like that.
Yeah, there are a lot of difficult mechanics to optimize in this game.
While it is random, when you know, you do movement manipulation dozens of times over the course of the run, on average, you will get more successful manipulations than failed ones. Though of course it is still luck-based, but it does add up significantly. Player on the right nearing the end of the stage 2 stage section. We'll see if he makes it. These freezes that are aimed from this big player right here on the right, they could be 30%, but it's a riskier, more difficult strat that neither player might be going for today.
Yeah, that was a good stage portion. 16
Yeah,
points.
he's definitely should be happy with this.
Yeah, he's only had 1 death, and that was a suicide on first spell, I'm pretty sure. So I would say this.
One part of the boss movement in this game that you can manipulate though is the height of the bosses. Which direction they move in horizontally is affected by your positioning, and you can kind of manipulate it, but whether they move up or down, that's just totally random, so usually you want the bosses to move high if possible and never move low.
Kaiko's using a way different freestyle than Dagoth.
Yeah, Kaiko is playing this much safer. He's not going through as many
He's not
rings.
really doing any double. And on the last run I saw him freeze against the side, which he's gonna do.
That's a good question, Curb comment. On specific patterns, you may want the boss to be low, such as on... let's use the stage 1 mid-boss in this route as an example, Lily White. On his final non-spell you use a couple of bombs, and he's firing bullets from her all around the screen. And for these bombs, it's better that he's as close to the center as the screen, which means as low as possible, to get a slightly more even spread of the bullets for a bigger bomb. But the majority of the time, higher is better for score.
Yeah, low height is for the most part pretty bad. Also makes the game harder.
Yeah, the closer the bullets are coming to you, of course, the harder it's going to be to react to them. And it also means that the boss is closer to your freezes, which for damage control, which is a huge part in this game, with kind of a long timers, small health bars on bosses, you cannot deal extra damage most of the time without either losing score or ending the spell prematurely, or having to do alternate strategies that deal less damage and maybe score less. So it's very important that you deal the damage that you intended to and no more. Kaiko getting into the second spell, we'll see what strategy he's gonna use. It seems like he's playing it slightly safer than Dagoth. And he's also using a bomb here, which is an okay place to use a score bomb. It's not as profitable as some others, but it is a legit option. I actually have done it myself in the past.
Yeah, the main use of a bomb here. The main use of a bomb here is to get things back on track.
Yeah, it clears the whole screen, so you pretty much also set up your next freeze to be both safe and good when you use a bomb. Of course, if you cap the spell and get good freezes all at the same time, it scores the most, but if you are at high risk of dying or have already died, then it's a very decent place to bomb. Or simply if you are not consistent at this spell and are expecting to die.
Dagoth is using...
Again, on this star final spell we'll be seeing both players, if they get there. Kaiko on it right now, grazing these bullets as they spawn from behind these fireballs. Which I think were comets according to the spell name. So they got these comet trails that spawn bullets.
He definitely... It's missing out on a bomb opportunity here, which I think is a waste because it's a really good bomb spot.
Yeah, I don't think either player has gotten really great final spells so far. There's some luck in it involved in what kind of pattern the boss decides to give you, and also in the individual freezes if you are able to get a really good connection. They can be very large freezes if you get lucky, up to 600k each on that final spell, but so far today neither player has been able to get that kind of luck going.
Kaiko having some very unfortunate deaths on his stage portion. He had a lot of motivation, so it's not a huge deal. It's definitely quite unfortunate and not ideal. Since you're not gaining anything from it.
We would have seen a bomb here, but since he died, he's gonna do an alternate one which didn't cover the whole screen, but he kinda had to go for it anyway. We'll be seeing if Kaiko is going to use suicides on this Sunny mid-boss no spell. This is getting really dangerous. He's not using suicides so far.
Doing a good job of staying alive at least, and side shooting pretty well, I would say.
Definitely.
The freezes are a little low. Freezing.
He might be using a bomb after this freeze here, as he's getting close to maximum PF. Your PF maxes out at 300%, so if you are going above it, you are losing value on any PF you would gain from freezes, so he uses this bomb here to avoid that situation. Looks like he's not gonna be doing suicides.
Oh.
Getting sniped by that bullet.
Yeah.
Usually you wanna wait for just a bit before you freeze this off, freeze it up close. Getting hit by that very first bullet that fires is definitely unfortunate.
Yeah, and I would say the pattern is harder to learn. to a certain extent, of course. You can't just...
We'll be seeing
Be
Kaiko
right
go for
below.
some score bombs here on the stage section on these fireball curtains. I'm not sure about this timing. Yeah, it was a bit off. Ideally, the whole screen is covered like this. Now he got a good timing. You see, it's like 200k more than the Misty time bombs he did. Then we get to the knife rings, which are a section where you can do a variety of different routes. I don't think I've ever seen this one. We'll see how it... that was really close. He almost got walled. Now he's definitely getting walled. Maybe if he finishes this run and gets a good one, we'll be seeing what his route is supposed to look like when it goes well. He might still have time for it, just barely. You would want that freeze at the end to kill both of those enemies, to get frozen items from them killing them with ice, but it's not such a big deal to miss it. And now we see Kaiko going for the frozen items on Luna Child. He wants the ice damage to kill her. He got it. Frozen items collected, which are worth quite a bit on this boss. And he's going to go for them on Stars of Fire as well on the right. Let's see if he gets it. Damaging her just a bit, but not enough to kill her. He got it. Very good. But he deals a lot of damage to this main fairy here. So his milking is going to be limited. He might have to use a suicide or two if he wants to get a good milk here. Looks like he's going to not be doing suicides, but instead just doing very cautious freezes to not kill the boss. He could be doing bigger ones, but then he would just kill the boss, deplete her HP, and end the milk early, so playing passively like this is the best he can do at the moment. Using this freeze here to damage the side fairy, get the kill on it, freeze the suicide bullets, which are also being moved by the sun if you let them go into it, so you definitely do not want that to happen, since they start swinging in really crazy directions and can absolutely murder you. You saw how those suicide bullets from Sunny 2K's nasty swing, or from Luna rather, do a nasty swing thanks to the sun. That is not what you want to see, so there's a safety freeze that's absolutely necessary when there are suicide bullets on this spell, and it's also helpful for score. And he's wanting to use his freezes here to damage the boss in order to milk for motivation. When your freeze deals full damage to a boss, it gives quite a bit of motivation. He's been in a bit of the extra damage so he can't get the full milk, but he's still getting a good amount. He's getting to the second non-spell, we'll see what kind of strat he does here. He's dealing quite a bit of extra damage to this fairy on the left. This may be a safety strat, and he might leave the one on the right alive for longer to milk it. We'll see what he does. And he's gonna kill it too. This is definitely it's a safer strat that scores a bit lower, but if it works for him, power to him. Seems like he's definitely gonna get past this non-spell pretty fine. Looks like he's gonna go for...
Well, he doesn't have an, yeah, he doesn't have an PF, so being at the top would give him more score compared to being at the bottom, because the pieces above Sunny are higher score.
Yeah, definitely. And he goes for the strat where he damages the side fairies at the beginning of this Ice Dissolver spell with that starting freeze, which he got. This is definitely not going the easy way, but he made it with
That
the
looks
bomb.
like a plan bomb. That looks like a plan bomb.
It might be part of the plan. But
Yeah, it really looked.
it can be done without the bomb as well, with a aggressive shooting strategy, but which we've seen on Dagoth's side already, but maybe this player doesn't know about it. And we see the player on the right is freezing pretty low on the screen on this spell, which has lower score potential than freezing higher. But it also depends on what cycle you're on, you know. You can't freeze bullets that are not there, and if you froze in a somewhat bad time, partially due to being forced in the previous cycle, then you kind of have to wait for the bullets to come up, and then your second one will be fucked and all that. It is a very snowbally spell with these freezes. Doesn't seem like he's gonna be using bombs on this third non-spell. Usually the strat is to do a bomb at the very
Definitely
start.
gonna be using some.
Suicides on this third non-spell of the 3 fairies fight are also worth a lot in every route generally, including this one. Seems like Kaiko isn't going for any of them, so he'll be missing some score. Then the third spell. Last time he didn't kill the fairy on the right, we'll see what he decides to do. Seems like he is purposefully leaving the fairy on the left alive instead of killing her. And just milking it with her alive. It's a bit dangerous with those fireballs there, but he seems to be comfortable doing this, so it's probably fine. Yes, there is the 30% bomb threshold, where if you freeze 29% or less in size, you get 1 to 9% perfect freeze. If you freeze 30% or above, you get 20% perfect freeze, which makes a absolutely huge difference. We see this fourth non-spell where we might see Kaiko run for 30% freezes. Didn't get one there.
The score is different because all fairies are not made.
There's other weird things about the frozen items on the final boss as well. Some spells, some non-spells don't have them, some of them do. It's you figure it out, man. You just have to pretty much play the game or look it up to see what parts of the final boss give frozen items and which don't, because all of them do not.
Kaiko definitely should have bombed the fourth non.
For example, this fourth non-spell there, it didn't have any frozen items, so for those it doesn't matter if you get with a freeze or not. But you probably still want to get some motivation from freeze killing her. Yes, it's possible to miss frozen items even if you're supposed to get them based on a couple of things. The first is a glitch when you kill the stage 2 boss in any route. Sometimes it will not spawn frozen items, even if it should, which we don't know the cause of, we don't know how to trigger it or not trigger it, sometimes it just happens. We've not been watching if it's happened to either of these players in these runs, but it might have. And the other is...
and it's not only frozen items, regular items also don't drop if the glitch happens.
Yes, the glitch just deletes the stage 2 boss items sometimes on its very last spell where you kill her. Other ways to miss frozen items are if you die after the frozen items have dropped, or rather are dead when the enemies die. In that case the frozen items will not be auto-collected and you will have to POC them, they just float in there while you are dead and are unable to be auto-collected to you. And if you are killing multiple fairies at once that would drop frozen items, and one of them is the leader of the spell that ends the spell, you only get frozen items from the leader. For example, on Fairy Overdrive, if your last freeze would be killing all 3 fairies, but it just kills the final one, you get the frozen items from the spell leader, but the 2 that were not the leader do not give their frozen items since the spell leader takes priority in dying and dies and drops his stuff first. But there's also a mechanic where frozen items that you have not claimed may transfer to a second part of the boss fight and be grabbed on the next spell where there normally would not be ones, would not be frozen items, which may allow for a recovery in a situation like that. And we see Kaiko here on this final spell, going for the bombs.
Yeah, he's not killing the side fairies, so he's losing 360k from that.
Yeah, there's frozen items on this final spell on the side fairies. He's getting a 90 million score right now, which was that a better score than his previous run? I believe it was. So he should definitely be happy with that. unfortunately, the timer just ran out before he finished this run by a fraction of seconds, so a matter of seconds, so he won't be able to do another run, but 90 million and better than his previous run is definitely something that he should be satisfied with.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we see Dagoth on his also final run on the 4th non-spell.
Yeah, I think he did the full resource route on the 3rd non. I wasn't really paying attention at the time, but
Yeah, neither was I. I was
overall,
watching the player on the right.
yeah, his score is a little lower than
He's
last
definitely
time, I
got
believe.
enough lives to max motivation clear, but if he dies on this 4th non-spell, I think his run is dead.
Yeah,
So this is very scary for him right now. I'm sure he's aware that if he dies one more time... Oh, there it goes. There goes the run. Now he cannot finish with maximum motivation, which means that he cannot improve his score from his previous run anymore. Pretty much guaranteed. As you need 1000% motivation on clear to get the maximum clear bonus, and that clear bonus is 43.1 million. And for each life you have, that's 4 million. So if you're missing one, you have 900% motivation on clear, you get 39.1 million, which is 4 million less. In other words, a dead run.
Yeah, that's why A1 is so good with all the good suicides being at the end. If you're lacking lives, you can just skip them.
Absolutely. That 4th non-spell is really scary. Sometimes it will give you a very hard pattern with the way that the bullets are swinging randomly. But you gotta go for it for the points, man. He's skipping the in-between freeze here on overdrive. Thinks perhaps he doesn't have enough ice charge to be able to do all the optional freezes. Which is a bit riskier, you have to go through these green bullets, but may give you higher chances of a good freeze here. He managed to finish the
Looks like
spell with
he's
a
getting
freeze.
the... Yeah, that one's quite difficult. Because you have to dodge in the middle for a while. It's much more difficult than a regular...
Yeah, that was a really good finisher to Fairy Overdrive. It was a tough one, and the reason he did it was so he could finish the spell with a freeze on the main fairy in order to get the cap bonus from damage and finish the spell with freeze damage for the frozen items that she drops, which is a significant score, get something like 200k, I don't know. But unfortunately the run was dead by that point, with the death on the 4th non-spell. And he's also...
his PF is...
Yeah, he had some PF
His
problems.
PF is very questionable. Not gonna get the last bomb.
Probably as a combination of Fairy Overdrive and the 4th non-spell. On both of those attacks, there's a big factor in whether you can freeze for 30% or not. And if you can't, then it's possible to not have enough PF to bomb 3 times on this final attack, which costs about 1 million since you can only do 2 bombs. So even if he was able to finish this run with maximum motivation, it is probable he would not have beaten his PB of 100 million. But the match is over. Dagoth got a 100 million run. Kaiko got a 90 million run. Both players put on a good show. Nice match, epic.
Yeah. GG to both players.
I think
It's a
both
good
players should
performance,
definitely...
especially from Dagoth.
Both players, I think, should definitely be satisfied with their performances here. Kaiko able to get 2 finished runs and improve on his first score, and Dagoth getting a significant PB of over 1 million, crossing the 100 million mark.
Yeah, but we don't know what Kaiko's actual PB is, so it's hard to say if that was good.
That's true.
But I'm sure he's satisfied. He should be.
Oh, absolutely. Oh yeah, we are on Touhou Replay Showcase, which I'm now apparently hosting. Thanks for having us, and thanks to our players, Dagoth Touhou and Kaiko, the Frenchman and the Jap. They both they played nice, had a good match, and I guess it's time to stop the stream. Bye bye, guys.
Yeah, I guess so.